Hi there, everyone. It's Marc Laurenson here from Sydney Astrology School. Thanks for joining me as we continue on with our Saturn Through the Houses series. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at Saturn in the 12th house. But before I get into it, I just want to remind everybody of my school. Sydney Astrology School is my school. I have intakes every 6 months. So we have an intake in January and an intake in July. And you get live webinars every week with me. Okay. So no pre-recorded stuff. It's all live. And of course, replays are available if you miss the live. So all the details are down just below this video. All my handles are down there as well. So I'd love you to join us. Okay, so let's look at Saturn in the 12th house. Now, this is a big one, and we've got to step back a bit. We really have to understand them both separately first before we can start putting them together. Okay, so the 12th house in astrology, it's one of those houses that you really can't sum up in a few words because it is such a big house. It's a huge house. And so therefore, when you try to explain it in smaller terms or human terms, we kind of miss the mark a little bit because what's going on with the 12th house is it's a feeling of connecting to something way, way bigger than who we are. Okay. So with the 12th house, you really do have to leave the ego at the door. And when you enter into the 12th house, you're going way beyond really what the ego wants and way beyond our human levels of desire and our human fears and just the human way of being able to understand things. We're going into a much more visceral area. It's an area that comes more from within rather than without. And it's an area to really connect to our real selves, our essential selves in the 12th house. Now, interestingly enough, the ancients did not like this house. It was called the House of Troubles or the House of Self-Undoing. And that makes me smile because you can see why they didn't like it because they would go into this 12th house, with their fearful, greedy, little self-serving mitts, and go into it going, what can I get out of this particular house? And of course, it would backfire on them because vibrationally, the energy of the fearful human self or the greedy human self and the vibration of the 12th house, they clash. They can't meet. They can't really get to understand each other or see each other. And so when you go into the 12th house with that kind of intention, it is. It's going to brick wall you. It's going to make you feel a little tiny bit like you're lost or you're confused or something's gone wrong. And so, as I said, when you come into the 12th house, you have to come into the 12th house, I want to say open, spiritually open. And that's why the 12th house is always going to be, about isolation and solitude and areas of quietness, because in those places, they're the places where you can actually listen to your inner voice, listen to your guidance, listen to your intuition, or some people might actually say connect with God. Okay, so this is the 12th house. So if you go into the 12th house going, what is in this house for me? I'm going to say very little for your fearful self, very little for your kind of self-serving, I've got to make my life, I've got to feather my nest more than anybody else. That self, very little in it for you if that's the way you go into it. But there's a lot in it for you, a hell of a lot in it for you, if you go in with an open heart as a magnanimous, altruistic kind of person who understands themselves, as a sprinkle of universal energy here on the planet representing the universe, and being able to understand it on the level of what we have to offer and what we have to share on the level of our greater good, and being able to be part of something much, much bigger than who we are, much, much bigger than the smaller self. And that's when everything starts to work in the 12th house. When you're a little tiny bit more, when I say charitable, I don't mean you have to go into volunteer situations unless you want to, of course. But it's not about doing charity work, but it is about everything you do in the 12th house. The intention has to go beyond you. It has to go beyond your immediate needs. And that's when everything works. That's when everything starts to work for you. Okay. Now it is part of the the fourth quadrant. Sorry, the fourth quadrant is the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th houses, and they have everything to do with integrating out into the world, and they do it in three very, very different ways. And so the 12th house has a way of being able to integrate um, in a more mutable fashion. It's got a feeling of being able to come into a place where you kind of go into the flow, or get into the rhythm, or you become something greater than yourself, as I said. So when you're looking at a planet in the 12th house, the planet in the 12th house is going to have to release its ego self. It's going to have to release its fearful self. And it's going to have to become much, much bigger, as I keep saying, on the level of being able to see itself, as a godly vibration, as something that's aligned with a frequency that is actually way, way beyond what we deal with on an everyday level. Okay. So here we go with this one because I'm going to add Saturn into the picture now. Now, Saturn is another planet that they didn't like. The ancients didn't like. It was called a malefic. They didn't like it because, again, they didn't like it because you had to work at it. Saturn is always going to be about a sense of having to apply yourself, having to pull your finger out, having to take responsibility and accountability for who you are and what you do. And of course, the ancients didn't like that. They didn't want to have to, own what they're doing. They didn't want to have to buckle down and focus and do the right thing. They just wanted to play and get what they can out of things. And so again, we're talking about, a planet that's been given a bad rap or a nasty name only because people just didn't want to do what's being asked of them, basically. So Saturn is you might want to actually say is very, very different. It's a very, very different energy altogether than the energy that I just described in the 12th house. Funnily enough, in traditional astrology, Saturn is in its joy in the 12th house. Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into that because I have a thing with all that kind of stuff, but as I said, I'm going to move right along. So Saturn is in the 12th house, is really where these two energies meet. Now, Saturn, when we're playing Saturn well, as you know, this is where we become the author of our lives. This is where we become the boss of our lives. This is where we take responsibility for who we are and the choices we make. This is where we create our path in the world. This is where we have a mission. We want to achieve something, where we have a mountain to climb, so to speak. And so let's go down the road of saying Saturn in the 12th house is that you have to now be able to come into a place of connecting to something much, much greater than who you are and connecting to your essential selves. And that now becomes what Saturn needs to structure. Saturn needs to put parameters, or Saturn needs to be able to mold it in such a way that you can actually start to formulate or you can start to manage or systemize where this needs to go here on the planet. Okay. So again, you are responsible because Saturn's always going to be about that. You are responsible for, I want to say, for your spiritual well-being and your spiritual understanding and your spiritual wisdom or knowledge and how you use that this lifetime. You're responsible for that. So again, it's not about cutting corners. It's not about running away from it. It's really about embracing it. And so, when you're talking about Saturn, this has to be like something you want to achieve this lifetime. You want to achieve coming into a place where the essential self, the soul self, and the human self become one. Basically, you're here on the planet to do that anyway. But Saturn in the 12th house is really going to be a big underscoring of that notion. That feeling of being on the earth plane in a body and having to deal with an earth plane existence, but at the same time, not forgetting who you originally are. Who you are, as far as I said, being part of God. That's who you are. And so again, Saturn is going to, when I say be on your case, I don't necessarily mean that in a headmaster kind of way, though it might feel like that sometimes. But Saturn is always going to be making you aware of who you are on the level of, I want to say, your intention around everything you do. And as I said at the beginning, keeping your ego out of the way. See, the sixth house has got a very similar thing going on. The ego has to be checked at the door in the sixth house as well, in a very different way to the 12th. But there is a feeling now of being able to take what you might want to say spiritual accountability or spiritual responsibility for all the choices that you're making. Okay. Now, I don't want to actually make this sound like, I'm going to have to, be very cautious all of my life and have to worry about am I doing the right thing spiritually. I don't want to make it sound like that, but I do want to make it sound like that everything you do this lifetime and where you're heading this lifetime and your mission has to feel in a way that my happiness, my happiness, my sense of bliss, my sense of inner contentment, my sense of um, feeling alive, basically, my sense of feeling spiritually alive is based on everything that I do this lifetime, even work this lifetime, has to, in a way, align with not only my higher good, but the higher good of everything and everyone that I touch. Okay, so this is a Saturn in the 12th house thing. You are the boss here. You are the driver of your ship in this particular area. There's no way you can actually turn around and start blaming people for things going wrong in your life or feeling lost or feeling confused or feeling you're being brick walled because really when it all boils down, it's in your hands. And so on another level, you can talk about discipline, spiritual discipline on the level of meditation. Bring meditation into your life every day. Bring a walk in nature. Go down by the waterfront. Find something in your life where you can disconnect from the humdrum of the world and come into a softer, kinder, more released state with yourself. And do that in a way, do that in a Saturnian way, do that in a more way where it becomes like a discipline of sorts. And so this becomes really important for you because now you'll be getting into the swing, so to speak, of doing this on a regular basis, and it now becomes basically part of your life. Okay. So if you can actually start to create your mountain, your mission in life, and if you start to create it around this beautiful this beautiful feeling that you have when you're in the 12th house, this beautiful connection to all of life, to everything and everybody in it. And you now start to realize that you are the creator of this, you are the maker of this, it is in your hands. Then your mission this lifetime is not just a mission to get through it on a human level, but your mission and getting to the top of the mountain is actually going to be in the arms of God.